morning. It is April 13th, 2026, and we have another live trading session. So today, again, we start these videos off the exact same way every single time. We're trading NASDAQ, US 30, and gold, as we already know. Let's look at our sentiment for today. We know that on the news side of things, we have no news, no high impact news for today. On the sentiment side of things, we know that we have our NASDAQ sentiment, which the majority of the NASDAQ sentiment has come out as bearish. We also have our Dow 30 sentiment, which is US 30. We can see that this sentiment has also predominantly come out as bearish. And then lastly, we have our gold sentiment, which we see gold has come out as bearish as well for today. So with that in mind, we can now switch over to the charts. With the NASDAQ chart, we see that we had this huge rally last night. Actually, if we just go on a higher time frame, we can look at this from a larger perspective. So from a higher time frame, we saw we had this huge gap down yesterday from Friday to Sunday's price action. After this huge gap down, we had London session, or prior Asia session, going into London session, which was basically just filling this gap. And now we can see on the lower time frame perspective, we have created this high of the day here with the 830 push. And then we have this low of the day, which was created here with this pre-London low. So we're currently stuck between that high and the low of the day. And as we talked about from NASDAQ, we have majority of a bearish sentiment today. So ideally, I would want to see some lows start to be swept and then us start to attack low of the day. But since we've already framed the high of the day, again, we broke the previous high that was made at 605 with this 820 price action. And then now we've made this high of the day with 830. We know that this could be the range for the day, and we could actually just be sitting through consolidation. And then next we have US 30, which same exact premise basically that NASDAQ is doing. We go to a higher time frame, and we see that on the higher time frame from Friday to Sunday, we had this huge gap to the downside. After this huge gap to the downside, we see that Asia session going into New Day, which was today, has been now once again filling that prior gap that was in the market from Friday to Sunday. And then now if we go on our lower time frame perspective, we know on a 15-minute time frame that US 30 has now tapped into this bearish 15-minute FVG here that was created with the 615 candle. However, we know that we are in between price. So if I just, again, go to a lower time frame and I mark out the range from the high to the low, and once again, I'm just using the bodies, we can see within the current range, we're just floating around the 50% area. So we're floating around that equilibrium area of this price range. And so I'm not confident in taking shorts just directly off of this 15-minute fair value gap until we show some sign of wanting to break to the downside. And that sign for me would basically be if this 5-minute fair value gap can get broken with conviction, and we can get down close candles below this 5-minute fair value gap, then we can look to align with shorts aiming for this low of the day. And then lastly, we have gold. And again, gold kind of did the same thing that NASDAQ and US 30 did in terms of from Friday to Sunday, we had this huge gap in the market. However, you see gold has kind of just been consolidating and in this minor range for a couple of weeks now. And so if we take this off and we once again go to our lower time frame perspective, we know that the high of the day was created on gold at 250 this morning. So basically during London session, and we know this low of the day was created here with the 645 candle. And so with that, once again, we're stuck in between those two price legs. And I also know, even though the sentiment for gold came out as bearish, let's say that we're to pull back here, we still have these fair value gaps here on a higher time frame that we would technically need to be breaking to the downside in order to show me some sign that we actually want to go and attack this low of the day, rather than continuing to take this high out, since we are so close to that high. Again, we're 12 points from the high, about 13 points from the high, and we're 24 points from low of the day. So that's currently the ranges that we are sitting in. But as I say every single day, we're going to continue to sit on our hands, and we will see if an opportunity presents itself. Okay, so it's only been a couple of minutes now, but we're basically overall done for today. We're not going to get a trade in my opinion, because we've already completed all of the objectives that we were looking for. So as I just talked about in the previous voiceover, we came out with our sentiment being bearish for everything. So US 30, NASDAQ, and gold all came out as bearish. As I was talking about in the previous though, with where we were in pricing, again, we're going on a 1 minute time frame just to make this look even cleaner. But where we were at pricing when I was talking was around here, 840, around and in this area. And we knew that we had this internal liquidity here. But as I kept talking about, this high of the day was so close to price that I would be very surprised if we didn't take high of the day out rather than continuing short. And so the same premise goes for basically everything. NASDAQ doesn't give you an entry whatsoever. Again, there's no fair value gaps. There's nothing clean about the pricing here. Even on a 15-minute time frame, even if we clean this up, there's nothing clean about this price action. We kind of just pulled back into liquidity and then impulsed higher. So NASDAQ already took out its high of the day. Then we have US 30, which US 30 is the only thing that could potentially be aligned with today, because now we know we've broken the 15. Like I said, I didn't have enough confidence to take this 15-minute short because I knew where we were inside of price. We were at 50% equilibrium. So what happens? Boom, we pull back into a 5-minute fair value gap that was presented before 8:30 open. Again, I can't take this because this wasn't presented after that 8:30 price move. However, after we made that pullback into 5-minute, what do? We impulse bullish, and we have been trying to now attack this high of the day. So with NASDAQ already completing high of the day, I would expect that US 30 is now probably rebalancing itself. We'll see what this next candle kind of does, but I would expect this to be a rebalance candle, and then for us to potentially have an expansion higher to go and take out the liquidity at the high of the day. And then lastly, we have gold, which, like I talked about with gold, even with the sentiment coming out as bearish, we knew that on the 15-minute, there's a 15-minute fair value gap here. So we were waiting to see that 15-minute fair value gap tapped into. Once it was tapped into here, again, I tried to go on the 1 minute and see if we were able to align with a lower time frame entry, but 848, 849, literally in 2 candles, we tapped into the 15-minute fair value gap and then delivered up to our high of the day. So that objective is now complete as well, and now it's looking like exactly what was happening last week. And I talked about this in both videos that I made last week, but one of the losses that I took, basically the last 2 losses that I have taken have been from continuation entries. So almost identical to what's going on. We basically have a high of the day, we break out a high of the day. After breaking out a high of the day, we create another concurrent candle, and then we create some form of fair value gap entry in and around that high of the day to pull back. And I've been taking buys for continuation trades and basically either being caught in consolidation or stopped out in sells. So that's kind of looking like what the premise is for today. Is we've now already taken out this high of the day, so we know that the objective for the day is now completed. We are now starting to do this pullback. Again, there is no fair value gaps being created right now because this is just straight BPR, as well as the fact that, again, if we go back to our sentiment, we know that our gold sentiment for today should still be bearish. Give me 1 second. Yep, so our gold sentiment for today is still bearish. And so now, after taking out this high, we now know that there is a potential for us to start stacking and trying to now aim for low of the day, given that this liquidity is now taken. We don't know what's going to do, and again, we'll sit here and wait and see. But again, same premise goes for this. We've now swept that high of the day. I now want to see this bullish fair value gap broken to the downside. That bullish fair value gap can get broken to the downside. We'll look to potentially align for shorts to the low of the day. But other than that, we're basically just sitting on our hands and watching price for today because objectives are completed and we don't really want to get into this price action. Okay, so also I reiterate a lot on probabilities. And so again, this is another, as I was talking about, potential entry that's forming. However, if you look at this, you guys know if we're taking the candle, I usually like to take the body of the candle, and it's a 31-point stop with this framework right here. Now, with the way that we impulsed and the way that we have left wicks that are much longer than 30 points, I don't really want to be involved with this because I know I can't cover the low with a realistic stop loss, and so this is just low probable for me. However, we can still study to see if we get some form of reaction off of this. Once again, NQ's taken high of the day already, so you would expect for US 30 to follow that and go and take out this higher time frame liquidity. So it's now 9:16, so I kind of just wanted to drop in and give an update. Once again, these are conditions that we stay away from and that we sit on our hands during. I've already kind of explained exactly why we're sitting on our hands and the exact objectives that have been completed, but just a little run through one more time, because like I said in the last voiceover, we're not going to get a trade today. We're kind of just sitting and monitoring price and just studying. But high of the day already swept. High of the day created at 8:30, got swept at 8:45. Nasdaq becomes invalid. US 30. High of the day, low of the day premise. We had a 5-minute fair value gap before 8:30, got tapped into and post higher. Thought we were going to take it out at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock instantly reverts, and we've now left fresh liquidity on the highs as well as fresh liquidity on the lows. And what are we doing? Consolidating. And then lastly, we have gold, which gold has swept the high of the day. After sweeping that high of the day, it's now just been consolidating, but it's consolidating to the downside. We do know, futures and commodity standpoint, once again, gold is still holding bullish, or is still holding bearish. My apologies. And so with that, as I talked about, if we can break this bullish FVG with conviction to the downside, then we know that we should probably go to low of the day quite easily, given that it's only 13 points away. However, I don't know that we're going to align an entry. We still do have 40 minutes left in the session, but even with this having the potential to break to the downside, we know this is still low probable. The only thing that makes this something that we can even look at is the fact that, again, liquidity was swept with us taking the high of the day, and we now have a clear objective with this low of the day being our next target in mind. So we'll continue to kind of just monitor this throughout the rest of the session, but for the most part, we're just sitting on our hands, and we'll wait for Tuesday or Thursday when it should be more high probable to trade, and market conditions will be a lot better than what we're seeing now. Okay, so this is another case of seeing things that we don't want to see in terms of how pricing closes. So as we talked about with this 9:15 candle, we said that we would only want to be looking for bearish price action and for us to attack low of the day once we close this 15-minute fair value gap to the downside with a down closed candle. We've now seen on the 5-minute, we had that 9:15 candle which closed inside of the FVG. We had this 9:20 candle which stabbed below, and again, it's a pretty deep stab. It's a 13-point candle, so 13-point candle which stabbed to the downside and then now retraced and closed still inside of this fair value gap. So once again, we're still just waiting here to see if we are going to actually get a close below that fair value gap, and then from there would be the time that you can start looking for entries down to low of the day. But again, I'm going to reiterate, I'm not taking a trade right now. Probably not going to end up taking a trade today. It's now 9:26. We are about 34 minutes left in the session, and so we already know that the probabilities of today are quite low. We know that getting deeper into the session, the probabilities get lower and lower as well. And so we're not going to subject ourselves to poor market conditions. We're just going to continue to sit on our hands and continue to journal and study what price is actually doing today. And so once again, just showing the precision of what we're looking at and how we set rules and just follow our rules. Again, as we talked about, we knew we're only taking shorts and we're only looking to take shorts if we break the 15-minute fair value gap. 1, 2, 3, 4 candles have tried, 4 candles have failed, and we are now just sitting inside of this consolidation profile, not showing any momentum to actually want to get to this low of the day. Therefore, we continue to sit on our hands. And again, this is kind of just how you put framework together to say, if the market does this, then I react like this, and have a plan going into the session and into what you're looking for, so that you're not just buying and selling candles and putting yourself into unnecessary price action. I talk about it all the time, especially in these videos where we don't get any trades. Again, just preserving your mental capital. You know you have your physical capital to control, and that's where risk management comes into play. Again, just risking what your account can handle to make sure that you are able to live another day and to actually trade another day. But I reiterate it a lot, just talking about mental capital and saving your mental for days that are actually high probability, lots of volatility, and moving in the direction and with the momentum that you want to see it move in order to get to your actual objectives. Okay, so it is currently 9:45, so I'm going to give probably what is the last update of this session. But on US 30, we have now seen US 30 has made its way up to the high of the day, which was the main objective we were talking about it reaching, given that NASDAQ had already reached its high of the day prior to past that 8:30 raid. So those two objectives are complete. Again, NASDAQ has still just continued this consolidation and has failed to break the current high that was made in the market at 9:05. And then lastly, we see gold. Again, no break, no trade. And that's exactly what we're seeing. No break of this 15-minute fair value gap. 15-minute time frame has shown we have BPR here. So these candles are not creating down closed fair value gaps. They are actually balancing themselves. And so once again, we're just sitting through a consolidation profile. And we will just wait until Thursday, or we'll wait until tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and hopefully we get some better opportunities going into this week. We do know that there is very minimal news this week, so we don't have a lot of forecasted news events for the week. If we just go over the week, we have core PPIs tomorrow, which is high impact at 7:30. We then have Wednesday, which we don't have any high impact news, but we don't trade Wednesdays anyway. We then have Thursday, which we have an orange folder unemployment claim news event on Thursday. And lastly, we have Friday, which there are no red folders for Friday either. So this will be a majority price action week, meaning that we'll just be reacting off of what the markets are actually doing in real time, rather than using news events as amplifiers of volume in order to get us to our projected targets. But yeah, that is basically going to conclude today's session. And like I said, I will be back tomorrow for another live trading session, and hopefully we have some cleaner just some cleaner and better price action to where we're actually able to align with the trade.